Good evening. Welcome. Everybody hear me okay? I'm Terry Beach. I'm the Economic Development Director for St. Clair County and the moderator this evening. Thank you all for coming to learn more about the state of MidAmerica Airport. Our intent tonight is to inform you and provide a current briefing on the airport, where we've been, the current status, and future plans and objectives. You will be provided facts. Our agenda tonight is this. The first, St. Clair County Board Chairman Mark Kern will give opening remarks. Then Airport Director Tim Cantwell will make a presentation, a very detailed PowerPoint presentation. Then after they make those presentations, we will open it up for questions and comments from the floor. Please wait until I recognize you. Before I recognize elected officials, I will give priority to non-elected officials, the citizens here in the audience. After I recognize you, please state your name and the village, city or village you live in or live closest to. Thank you. So up first is County Board Chairman Mark Kern.
Good evening. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight to hear about MidAmerica Airport and what we think are some exciting things that are taking place out there. This is the beginning of an important week that will culminate on Thursday with the ribbon cutting of a new warehouse, which you'll be hearing about in Tim Cantwell's presentation, something that we've been working on for a long time. Tonight we're going to give you facts about MidAmerica Airport. And we're going to update you on the current development activity as well as things being planned in the near future. We have exciting developments ready to move forward, both on the air side as well as the land side. The air side, of course, are those projects that are associated with airports, air cargo activity and aviation activity. But the land side is ready to see significant activity also. Projects such as the new Exit 21 at I-64 and Reeder Road will open up and provide a new front door for Scott Air Force Base, as well as open up industrial development both on airport ground and on private property across the road north of the interstate. And we're pleased that the airport's neighboring communities are excited too about that development. The state of Illinois is going to be supplying funds for the building of an interchange, and we're excited to work with the nearby communities on that project in the near future. But first and foremost, we've got to talk about MidAmerica Airport and the fact that credit goes to Congressman Jerry Costello for gaining the necessary funding to build that airport, which secured and saved Scott Air Force Base from 2 rounds of BRAC. MidAmerica and our lengthened runway of 10,000 feet was the reason that the 126th Air Refueling Wing and all of those full-time active duty and air guard positions were transferred down here. Many of those people are living in our community. We see them every day. We know them every day. They shop in our stores, and of course, bringing airplanes to an Air Force base was extremely important and is extremely important. And so that fact with the 10,000-foot runway was certainly extremely important. The length of that runway is, of course, vital for an extra measure of safety when those tankers depart heavy, as well as when other aircraft come into Scott Air Force Base. Our 10,000-foot runway, additionally, is a selling tool that will help us attract more flight activity. And as you're going to hear tonight, we're not satisfied with the status quo. We're actively seeking more aviation activity on our runway, and our setup and central location helps us to do just that. The future is bright at MidAmerica Airport. We're committed to growing the airport so it can reach its full economic potential, not just for the nearby communities of St. Clair County, but for the entire St. Louis region. Many of you have lived in this county for a number of years, and so you know the history of MidAmerica Airport. But I think it's important to go back and revisit the major events that led up to where we are today. In the late 1980s, Governor Thompson was contacted by the FAA. At that point, Lambert Airport in St. Louis was heavily congested. It was my understanding, was about the 6th most congested airport in the country. They needed a reliever airport in this area. It was causing too many headaches for the FAA, and they pinpointed an area near Scott Air Force Base as an area that would be good for a reliever airport. Governor Thompson was contacted. He contacted then County Board Chairman Jerry Costello. And agreements were made, and a study was put forth by the FAA that said MidAmerica Airport would be a good idea, would relieve congestion, at Lambert Airport, and so the airport idea was born. We then moved through a series of years, and we get to 1998. The airport was built, and we moved to 98 when the FAA gave approval to operate MidAmerica Airport as a Part 139 commercial airport. 2003, a grant was received to build the first cargo terminal. 2004, passenger service starts from Transmeridian and then Allegiant Airlines. 2004 also marked my election, so I came very late to the picture, but came to MidAmerica Airport, and Tim Cantwell, who was there briefly before I got there. 2005, the cargo terminal was complete. 2005, we became a foreign trade zone, and that is extremely important to our international model today. 3,600 acres of MidAmerica Airport is in a foreign trade zone. 2006, we brought in Customs and Border Protection. In 2007, the first international cargo flight came in from Chile. We then went through flights from Bogota. We had Asian flights come in, test flights, and we had grain seed come in. In 2010, we'll all remember, we cut a ribbon. Boeing established its first aircraft manufacturing facility in Illinois at MidAmerica Airport. And today they're operating with many, many jobs that pay a good wage. $70,000 to $80,000 a year are the jobs that Boeing offers. 2010, the first China freight aircraft landed at MidAmerica Airport, and we saw many delegations go back and forth from China. And delegations continue to meet every month, and more visits are occurring now. So what we have is we have a robust activity that is growing, and with an announcement this week and a ribbon cutting this week, you're going to hear from the owners of North Bay Produce, who are going to describe what their operations are going to be at MidAmerica Airport. That'll be on Thursday. But tonight I want to welcome Tim Cantwell here, and Tim gives briefings at the Public Building Commission once a month, but I think it's important to do this tonight at a time when everyone can attend. And so Tim, please enlighten us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you all for coming, especially the regional partners that are here tonight. You know who you are. You're not from the area, but you benefit from using the airport just like the Perryville Saberliner Company did in that Antonov picture there. I'm going to cut through a swath of the airport to give you digested things. I'm not going to go through a master plan that was just completed 2 years ago that reaffirmed what we're doing here by the FAA and outside agencies. I'm not going to go through the ad nauseum data boil down that was required to understand where trade routes could open and where they could close. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an update on what the capital plant looks like, what the compliance issues are when you're doing international trade from an airport, and then go through some of the commerce. And I'll summarize by going around the airport and showing the buildings and the businesses that are there that you're not aware of because you don't fly around in a box anymore. If you would have been there for Allegiant, you would have seen these buildings going up. Allegiant and passenger service was usurped by Southwest Airlines, and it's a market issue that you should understand. Anybody, could I ask, did anybody use Allegiant or Transmeridian for flights? Okay, now this is a tough one, and I'll open myself up. Who had a bad experience using those airplanes? One person. You lose your bag or you just got lost?
I got stranded in Chicago.
That wasn't Transmeridian or Allegiant. That was the very first effort for
I think
passenger
you're right.
service.
I think you're right.
Okay, on Transmeridian or Allegiant. So what happens with passenger service is we can fill an airplane easily 60% of the level. But what's today's measurement right now? It's 90 and 95. 90 gets you on margins, 95 will get you the route. And what we experienced in the 4 years of Allegiant's successful service was that we could fill the airplane very well, and then Southwest put on 3 flights a day to Orlando, and Orlando went 4. And then after another 2 years, Southwest put on direct flights, nonstop direct flights to Las Vegas, and those loads went lower. And we had 60%, and we were paying a fair price, not an exorbitant price, but every time the price point went up, Southwest just won. So Allegiant wasn't making any money. And if you know the airline industry today, they're not social beings. They're out to make money. And you know that when you're paying for extra baggage and when you're paying for extra gas. So let's go on through some of the capital here. I'd like to tell you that this is what the area looked like when I was still serving in the Air Force. Scott Air Force Base. This is a 1990 picture. You can see a straight line on the right-hand side for Highway 4 and all this land here. And through the project called the Scott Joint Use Project, all this land was acquired to buffer Scott Air Force Base and the planned runway environs. This is important for the ACU's protection area. This is important for the ACU's protection area. Some of the sub-municipalities didn't abide by some of the ACU stuff. I'll talk about that later on when we talk about compliance. But this was a critical part to help Scott Air Force Base solidify its position for future growth and future missions. Colored the trees in, and then a 10,000-foot runway. And I'm going to go through the improvements that happened at Scott Air Force Base and improvements that happened to MidAmerica side. So this is Scott Air Force Base side. Muscuda School District is the recipient of a great school down in this area that replaced the school up here. Air Force Base received a tower that is the tallest building in Washington County, in St. Clair County, St. Clair County. 7,000-foot taxiway. Any third world country would love to have that as their primary runway. Raised Weary housing. That place is now an opportunity for United States Air Force and or DOD to have a great building complex. And I'm sure there's rustling around, especially with Exit 21 up here, but that's going to be a prime opportunity for diversion of large masses of federal workers from high-density federal worker areas like Washington, D.C. 63 acres that were acquired right here. That is inside Scott Air Force Base fence. That is St. Clair County land leased to the Air Force. The Air National Guard 126 was built down in here. Repair and extend 3-2, that's really 1-4 right, 3-2 left. Sorry, wrong numbers. 3-2 left. Repair the ramps that were poor. Build emergency water station over here and move their range. We built Muscuda School, the housing area, and then the MWR complex. So you can see that just on the Scott Air Force Base side, the money that was in the Scott Joint Use Project enhanced them and built them up for a passing grade all the way through to the end of BRAC in 2007. On the MidAmerica side, just the white was done. I'm sorry, but white is improvement since 2004. So the general aviation ramp was double. Avmats, the first resident business. They do Saberliner and business jet maintenance repair overhaul. They also do an FBO, fixed base operator, for any kind of general aviation to come in here and sell, and they sell their gas, and we sell our gas to them to sell them down the line. Illinois State Police came up from SIU Carbondale to serve the population of Southwest Illinois, and they could reach it better from MidAmerica than they can from SIU Carbondale, which was our main reason. Became a ConocoPhillips marketer, 250,000 gallons of Jet A. We are the owners of all the gas that comes onto the airport property. That was not the case previous to 2004. Cargo building, now the Boeing building came up in 2005, as the chairman said. We became a customs for fee port of entry, the first one after 9/11. In fact, the paperwork was strange. It was to one side of Department of Homeland Security for 6 months, getting adjudicated, getting approved, getting going through, and then I was told to go reapply to another organization because they changed responsibilities for opening ports. And then 6 months later, I was told to resubmit to the original outfit. So in 18 months, it took to find the paperwork, to get the people together, to get the approval, and this was the first one after 9/11. Detention basins and the runways were cleaned up a little bit, and now we have North Bay Produce, a major distributor of fruits and vegetables between the Americas and Europe right now, and their aim is to be between Americas and Europe and Asia. You'll hear more, a little bit more about it. And we also have an expansion of the Mike apron. If you saw that AN-124 turn around on the current ramp that we have, you can stick all this many on the Mike apron. We anticipate to have more than this many on the Mike apron, which is why we need to have a bigger Mike apron. I gave a little bit about the compliance side. Prior to 2004, we were certified Part 139, which means that the FAA looked at all of our processes and approved us to be a safe operation for any commercial activity, And every year we get recertified. There's a wildlife program that keeps the airplanes away from the wildlife. And then we have aircraft rescue and firefighting. After 2004, we went through the TSA federalization program for the airport security plan. We became Foreign Trade Zone 31, thanks to Terry Beach and his office, passed getting through all the paperwork, and thank you to the sub-municipalities who passed all of those required memos that had to go up into this thing, and we fixed that all up, and so now we have the capability to compete for basing, for expansion of distribution centers that need air, and using the foreign trade zone aspect. USDA and APHIS approvals took plenty of time because there's so many phytosanitary rules that you need to have just to take care of the garbage that's in the cockpit of a cargo airplane, let alone what's in the back of the airplane that may be destroyed or need to be destroyed or fumigated. Customs duty-free, I talked about that. And then we transitioned from a primary back to general aviation, but we have international capability. I did talk about the ACUs, and one of the greatest marks we had for AIM to do was to solidify the surrounding communities with the Air Force Base and the county to try and have some kind of dedicated plan for the balance between economic development inside and outside the fence of Scott Air Force Base and MidAmerica Airport, and to make sure that the opportunities weren't going to constrict us so we couldn't have advanced missions at Scott Air Force Base. The joint land use study came about. We had every one of the communities plus St. Clair County involved in that. It all got approved. It's all in your building codes. You builders out there know this coming out right now. Things like around the airport influence area on outdoor signage don't have the lights pointing up. Because in this day and age, the military pilots are running around with NVGs, and if you have the lights pointing up, they're going to get a passing blinding in their NVGs. You got to come from the top down on outdoor billboards. Something as simple as that does have an impact on night missions. That's the forte of the United States Air Force forces these days. And of course, we got through 2007 with BRAC. There's not going to be one this year, but there'll be one. So let me go through the hierarchy that I've been directed. To be the best joint use airport in the nation, start international cargo with a trade route, find maintenance, repair, overhaul, that includes the Avmats and Boeing and more like that. Passenger service if it meets market demand. And then the others are the ancillary support pieces. When you have maintenance, repair, overhaul, or you have aircraft manufacturing, you'll have a carpenter shop. That carpenter shop, or you'll have a piping shop, or some kind of hydraulic shop. Those are all attached. So when you see the reach of economic development, when you see an airplane take off, there's 10, a cargo airplane take off, there are 10 bodies that had some kind of influence on there. Let me just give you one example. There were 15 crew members in the AN-124 that landed on Thursday night. 15. One of them spoke English, the rest spoke Russian. They went down to the Drury, spent the night. Who knows what they did across the street from the Drury on Greenmount, but it was a late night. They had with them, there were 10 Saberliner engineers to ensure that that helicopter was fully loaded in there. They did not go to Perryville that night. They stayed in either O'Fallon or Fairview Heights, that I know, because they wanted to come back out and make sure that airplane took off. AN-124 is notorious for maybe not taking off after it lands for a long time. So it did take off. So what I'm trying to tell you is the influence of that airplane just landing one time, the amount of gallons we sold them for gas, 31,000. 31,000 gallons of Jet A, one time landing. So let's go through the commerce piece. Be the best, establish international air cargo route, makes for overall business, host national air passenger service on the market, requires. There's only 22 joint use airports identified by FAA and DoD. Let me tell you another one, Colorado Springs Municipal Airport. Peterson Air Force Base is on Colorado Springs municipal land. Northwest Florida Airport, Eglin Air Force Base, you can call it Okaloosa County, that's what it used to be called. It has 250 acres on Eglin Air Force Base, but it's commercial service back and forth. Charleston, you fly down to Charleston, South Carolina, you'll fly into a civilian side, across the way you'll see the big pigs, the C-17 sitting on the ramp there. Our original agreement was written in 1993 before first yard dirt was moved. It was modified in 1997 when the last yard of cement was poured, and it's in place before the airport operated. It's a little out of date. We've been working on it. We have a little bit of disagreement on what it means to be an airport or what it means to do some other things, and we're working through those. And it takes a long time. Anybody who's been in the military knows that you have one entity dealing with the United States Air Force. That one entity has to deal with every chain of command, and there's 7 layers I have to deal with all the way to the Secretary of the Air Force. So it's not an easy, it's a lengthy piece. I went to school with Duncan McNabb. When I listen to one of the 13 4-stars of the United States Air Force, I don't listen to opinions, I listen to fact, because they make fact in the Air Force. I'll let you read it yourself. Some of you were at that welcoming and heard this exact piece. Here's what it looks like to MidAmerica and Scott Air, the 375th, who's my partner, operate it daily at every level, 1 foot above the ground. We operate it, and on the surface, we agree to operate the taxiways and the runways together. The ramps we don't. And you need permission from either the civilian side or the military side to get off on the ramps on either side. Even me. FAA above us is not authorized to cross that line. Only the joint use agreeers. So that just the MidAmerica Airport personnel can go unrelented over to Scott Air Force Base, the same Scott Air Force Base with the qualifications and driver's privileges and all that other stuff that we work through. But you can see 5,800 acres around Scott Air Force Base, and Scott Air Force Base is 2,800 acres. Just pulled just basic data, 2011 just through now. And the reason I put this slide up is to show you that 64% of the landings happening on MidAmerica's runway of the total ops, and up to now is only 40%, but all I need is 700 takeoff and landings per month, or 300 takeoff and landings per month, and it becomes a substantial use equation that we're trying to work through with the United States Air Force to say, you're substantially using us, let's go figure out how we get compensated. That's taking a long time to totally understand for the United States Air Force. On the international cargo road, it's ready to boom. And I'm not trying to oversell this at all. I'm afraid that if we don't meet what we say we can do, you're going to get one chance and it's going to be over. And it's not that it's going to be totally over, because our baseline tenant, North Bay, is going to be there, and they already forecast to move somewhere between 2 and 3 million kilos within the year. 2 and 3 million kilos, okay? 2 and 3 million kilos, 100,000 kilos in a 747. 2 and 3 million kilos. All the equipment's in place for them for turnkey. We've been putting together buyers and sellers, and Chairman Kern's been leading trade missions for international buyers. Get the root right. International buyers buying U.S. goods. International buyers buying U.S. goods, not the other way around. But you need to have trade both ways to make the airplanes profitable. With North Bay residency, we anticipate, and I'll be down sometime. I don't like to tell you when I'm gone because some people go crazy about it. We'll be down to Mexico and making agreements for flights to start in Q4 of this year from Mexico. And back, by the way. our goods going down, their goods coming up, and then passing through to another continent. Here's a corn seed from Iquique, Chile on Cielos, a Venezuelan airline. Miami charter, military charter. This is one of Lee's ones here. Trucks using the then Boeing building. Florida West, bringing in South Latin American goods, and then goods going south. Those are dry goods going south. Here's the classics. Here's a chiller from Korea to Santiago, Chile. From Asia to Latin America via MidAmerica. VCP is Viracopos. It's a cargo airport outside of Sao Paulo. And this is a perishable item that needed to be in a chiller and speed down to Latin America. We have trademarked this term, MidAmerica Fresh. It sells everywhere in the Midwest and sells in Asia and Latin America, because I understand that Midwest is a good place for safe, secure, certified food sources, proteins and vegetables and fruit. This is what a temp stick looks like in a flower box that came up to us from Bogota at the farm in flight. Customs, this little squirt right here was when Customs touched it, went on a truck and bought by the consumer. A supplier for all the targets in North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Minnesota. When he got these flowers, increased, you businessmen, increases bar skin income every time 20%. 20%. He broadcast that to Air Cargo Americas down in Miami, and I was flooded with, okay, let's get to some stuff going, and Boeing came in right before that, but I've already re-engaged those customers. This is China Eastern MD-11. Yes, I said China Eastern MD-11 charter. Shanghai to BLB. That's our three-letter identifier. Unloading computer parts to a place in Kentucky. You don't see this reported in some of the local papers because these are trade papers. These are trade papers. The trade papers know our value statement, and the trade papers know our logistics statement, and the trade papers know the opportunity that you're presenting to the market right now of safe, certified, secure food chain, perishable chain, trade, and also of reach to the mid-continent of America. They get it. That's okay. That's all we need to get it. Again, that's Mandarin. You've heard me say this already. The story, these are goods and services that will come out of the Northway building when it opens up on Thursday. There's a trade delegation led by the chairman. Notice these don't look like Americans, and these do. And he is leading a trade mission from Midwest businesses as far as Chicago or as close as Fayetteville. Everybody know this guy? Justin Siegel, Deli Star. Okay. Justin Siegel's Deli Star. This is Mike Schaefer, Schaefer Fisheries, Thompson, Illinois, on the Mississippi. Big fish. The chairman with one of the secondary city mayors of the Yangtze River Delta trading area. The chairman with the governor, with Mike Schaefer, with a buyer from China. That China buyer talking to Mike Schaefer about the cuts that he liked. Fourth largest port in Asia. And the chairman's getting a discussion with that and some other meetings. These are trade missions where buyers and sellers are put together. These are lines that we put together for freight from these origins to these distribution areas, a lot of them to the Midwest, but all of them through MidAmerica. Actual freight, not a study, not a public affairs release. You're welcome, North Bay. They're a great organization and have a great influence. They were looking for a centrally located, you'll hear this later on, less centrally located area in the United States that they could enhance and double their business. And oh, by the way, they were thrilled to know they could reach Asia. I didn't tell you that one. That's him, Mark Gerard. On a trade mission, selling his goods already through MidAmerica. So let's go through some summary slides and we can take questions. This Illinois Army National Guard, when you come off of Seabrook Road into the base, that is not Scott Air Force Base. That is MidAmerica, St. Clair County land. It's a 115-person unit. Of your neighbors, this is AvMax. They hosted Mid-Coast Aviation when Parks was closed, or downtown St. Louis was closed to expand their runway. In these buildings, they refurbished every CT-39, every Saberliner for the United States Navy. $213 million project. They have upward of 40 employees at any one time. Here's our maintenance building. 85 specialty vehicles we support for 6,000 acres of grass cutting, of snow removal, of tugs and pushbacks and cargo operation areas for passenger jetways, just out of that one building. The R facility, 3,000 and a 1,500 gallon vehicles out here, 24/7 security, required by the FAA and the Air Force. Illinois State Police hangar, there's a special airplane in there that supports law enforcement on a 24-hour day basis. 250,000 gallon fuel farm. Little one here is avgas for the pistons, airplanes, the other stuff is Jet A. We're ConocoPhillips marketers. Allowed by the Public Building Commission to have a relationship with the private entities. We get a ½ cent a gallon for marketing purposes from ConocoPhillips, just as long as we put a ConocoPhillips logo on it and get the ad approved. We negotiate fuel rates as a business entity, and we make fuel flowage fees and handling fees through the gas that we support, that we pass through. There's a Boeing building. I took it this morning. Parking lot's full. This is 2 rows of engineers, plus a back row of engineers, plus now, at this time, there's 3 docks. There's another 4th truck over here, and they're full, and they run 2 shifts. An odd shift at night, 10 to 3, I think it is. Something like that? 10, okay. U.S. Customs and Border Protection, anywhere from 2 to 8 officers. In the Antonov movie that I showed you before, there were 2 officers. One from USDA, with USDA background, and one law enforcement carrying a gun. There's a little farmhouse, the first building that was acquired for the Scott Joint Use Project, and we have an engineering planning outfit in there, do a lot of work to make sure that the levels of all the contracts and all the materials. There's a lot of Norm knows that. There's a lot of stuff you got to check. The terminal's quite populated, Community Group Worldwide. You'll know them from Mayflower, United Van Lines. They have a customs brokerage office in here and are working on, and they work on the movements with the paperwork from international to international or international to domestic. USDA operations are in there. TSA and airport IT and the admin stuff, and then Air Terminal Services has a huge office in there, and they're the guys who are parking the airplanes and gassing them up for us. You'll know about the mud run just recently, 2,000 participants out there trying to support and help with the community efforts. Rodeo the other night. And here's the building. 36,000 plus, fully chilled, perishable center, air cargo transfer system in it. Impact Strategy does a great job building this thing. Thank you. And we're very proud that we could host a world-class company that's going to drive traffic on the runway through air freight. And you'll see that by Q4. Chairman, that's all I have for the folks. Terry, if you want to open it up.
Okay, with that, we'll entertain questions. Any, raise your hand, I'll recognize you. Who wants to go first? Put my glasses on, I don't see any hands. It's tough to follow Cantwell.
Yeah, Craig. I'm Craig Hubbard, County Board Member from O'Fallon. Tim, on one of the earlier slides, were you showing the building positions? One of them was Chicago 2K. What is that? It was we had all the buildings and places, or not buildings, places numbered on the airport.
You were talking about.
That was the Chicago paid for the 2,000-foot extension.
Oh yeah, good. That's good. That's it. Let me go back to it because I know where it is.
Yeah, could you?
Yep.
City of Chicago actually paid
right
us
there.
$90 million, but
Yeah. Okay. So the original plan for the Scott Joint Youth Program that you voted for, that you will remember, it was 8,000 feet. This extra 2,000 feet was added by Chicago, who did not want to, who was the only city in all of BRAC for that time that gave up a unit. They said, we don't want them here. By the way, that last, if you were aware of the announcement, Aeroterm is now building some kind of big monster cargo place up in their 300 acres that finally, they are finally using, Chicago's finally using, after all these years that 126 been here, it's their old home ground. So they paid for the 2,000-foot extension to operate the KC-135s on our runway because they need our runway.
Thank you.
That's what the 2K was. Thanks for asking that.
next, anybody? Ed Cockrell?
Thank you, Mr. Cantwell, for the briefing. It's nice to see something before it's in the newspaper or on the meeting before.
I can give explanation, but I can't give comprehension.
As a public official, it's nice to be briefed. Nonetheless, is there any subsidies involved with any marketing or anything going in and out of the airport, like the transports for the flowers that, I guess I don't know if we consider that a debacle or what the deal was. We were subsidizing so many flights, and I just want to know, is there any subsidies or anything in this new deal with any of the new ventures?
No.
North Bay did not even seek the sales tax exemption on enterprise zone building
Did
materials.
we ask Muscuda for a TIF?
They are working with us for a TIF when we need to come to them, and when they need to come to us for a business. They do have some TIF on the property. Shiloh has TIF on the property.
Okay.
O'Fallon does not have TIF on the property.
They do not?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
That would be a nice thing to have, especially in that far west corner where there's a lot of ground transportation to have. But Muscuda and Shiloh both have TIFs on the airport that we work closely with.
Questions or comments? Next. Yes, ma'am. Can you please state your name and where you live?
My name is Karen Reese, and I do live in St. Clair County. I live on the Troy Scott Road. My address is actually Lebanon. My question is, there's all this activity going on. Boeing's there, all these people are there. What kind of revenue is all this producing to take the burden of the airport off the taxpayer and put it on to the people who have commercial and other type ventures in the area versus us? Is this particular North Bay project going to produce that?
And the answer, it produces, much like in any community, Lebanon or Muscuda or O'Fallon, these people pay property tax. So, and they don't have any children living in the building, so they're funding the schools to a good level because these are some pretty high dollar facilities there. So those facilities do pay real estate taxes. But beyond that, when you have $70,000 to $80,000 a year jobs at Boeing, you've got people who are buying houses. They're shopping in Lebanon. I was in Lebanon at a local restaurant on the main street not a month ago, and a man came in and bought 13 lunches. And while he was there, he was kind of talking, and he walked out. And one of the patrons said, "Who was that?" And the lady said, "That he's from Boeing. They come in every Thursday." So you know they're in the communities. The 80 people that eventually are going to be working at North Bay Produce, you know, they'll be in the community too. They'll be doing the same thing. These are new jobs that are being created. These are people who didn't have employment. And while other places are seeing employment decrease, we're seeing a real generator at MidAmerica, and that's beyond the jobs that are generated every day because of Scott Air Force Base remaining open. And that is a key point that MidAmerica Airport and the replacement of a bad control tower, a bad school, a fact that you didn't have airplanes, you had an 8,000-foot runway, housing was in poor condition. All were part of the bill for MidAmerica Airport. So every day that Scott Air Force Base is open and is around, and we all have neighbors and friends and coaches and teachers and everybody that are associated with Scott, relatives that were stationed there, people who stayed here, found out about St. Clair County because of Scott. They're here now. Colonel Hornacek just retired from Scott Air Force Base. He was the base commander. Chose to retire and stay and live here in St. Clair County. So all those things are a big benefit that are brought here. Now we've got North Bay Produce going to be coming in, bringing in airplanes. The way you make money at an airport is you gotta land airplanes. You get landing fees and you sell fuel. That's a way that we're going to be able to continue to reduce that nut at MidAmerica Airport, and we're succeeding at that. And when we cut this ribbon on Thursday, and North Bay starts its operations, we're one step closer to breaking even at MidAmerica Airport.
And what type of profit margin is there like in your fuel? You can sell hundreds of thousands of gallons of fuel. What kind of profit are you making? What kind of revenue is it? You know, there are no statistics like broken down that show any kind of revenue that shows the benefit to all the communities. Are the taxes, you talked about the taxes for the schools, is that just going to benefit Mascoutah, or is that everybody in St. Clair County?
Well, a school district, the airport is in a number of school districts, but whatever school district that building is in, that's who the taxes are going to. Just like when you're on Scott Troy Road, your real estate taxes go to one school. It doesn't benefit all the schools in St. Clair County.
Well, what
it benefits the school district
does it
that you.
benefit? What districts does it benefit?
Well, I know that most of these benefit Lebanon School District.
Well, I'm
Muscoutah.
actually in O'Fallon School District. I just have a Lebanon address.
I'm just saying the buildings you're talking about are Lebanon and Muscoutah.
Okay.
But with the big area of the airport, you know, it depends on where the building is built on the airport.
Well, I'd just like to see some figures of, you know, even very modest projections of how some of these things
We've got a slide.
are
On the slide of the cost of MidAmerica.
Here's the backup slide.
are going to benefit everyone.
So on this schedule, you'll see that the loss at MidAmerica runs about $2.19 million for this year. Now that doesn't include depreciation. You know, the seats that you're sitting in tonight depreciate in value every year, but it doesn't mean it costs the county $10 a seat. You know, those were purchased 40 years ago, and they continue to depreciate, but that isn't an annual cost. It also doesn't include interest expense, because once the money was taken from the FAA, when a bipartisan county board approved the agreement to build MidAmerica Airport, that interest was pretty well fixed. But the numbers at MidAmerica Airport include fuel sales, so we make $281,000 a year by selling fuel at MidAmerica. When we start bringing in more airplanes from North Bay Produce, that number goes up. And then the bottom line, the loss goes down. So, you know, what you're saying is what we're trying to do. We're bringing in commerce to the airport. It's going to bring revenue into the airport and make that bottom line much closer to a break-even level.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. You said 281,000. Okay, so were any projections made with North Bay if you had a year's worth of however much activity a projections of number of planes per month or per week? The approximate fuel computations?
There,
You know,
there
some
are,
number,
there are those
number
projections. You know,
crunching.
the good thing is that this isn't government that's running a business.
Right.
This is a private company that's coming and doing business on our airport. So there are projections, there are business projections. You know, that North Bay Produce is a company that is a consortium. It's made up of 30 growers from throughout the world, mainly in the southern parts, but in the United States also. And so depending on crop yields, you know, depending on all of those factors, there are a number of flights that can be predicted, but it really depends on a lot of different factors. But what we know is that they're going to be running these international operations out of MidAmerica Airport. Currently, North Bay Produce does about $70 million in business a year. They're looking to greatly expand that number by operating at MidAmerica Airport. They could have built this building in Michigan. When we met them, and I think it's important to so you know the type of job and the lengths which Tim Cantwell and his crew go to. We met North Bay Produce because we found out that the Chinese were looking for healthy foods and the blueberries were something they were interested in. A cold call was made to blueberry producers from throughout the country, people who could supply blueberries 365 days a year. A call was made to North Bay Produce. Connection was made with Mark Girardin. He then accompanied St. Clair County delegation to a trip to China, and on that trip, we talked to him about MidAmerica Airport, educated him. Shortly thereafter, he came and visited MidAmerica and said, you know what, we were going to build our operation someplace, and we think MidAmerica is the place. And so if you're there on Thursday, you'll get to hear Mr. Girardin talk about MidAmerica Airport and how it fits into his business plans, and we know it fits in with airplanes that are going to be flying in and out.
Let me help with a little enhancement to you. Yes, there are projections for airplanes and what you need. If you did the number and you did the math, $8,000 a day revenue is what you need, okay, to break even. Is what you need to break even. You get that on 2 747 load equivalents a day. So the aim right now is to get 2 747 equivalents, and whatever that is. So those numbers are basic, but are you going to have 4 A300s, or are you going to have, you know, where's the gas? So we do have plans and we do have numbers against those. But if you just do the math and divide the numerator by the denominator, it's $8,000 of revenue a day is what you need. Now, let me tell you, we're making almost $500,000 in farm revenue. I don't particularly like it. My job is to make that cement. So it's buildings and other things, but it's $8,000 a day is what we need to make to break even, zero. And it's 2 747, 400, 100 tons of cargo in and out a day.
Okay, so then what you're talking about is something that if they have other operations, they should be able to tell you. And I don't think I'd have somebody building a building. It looks like a great building, so they have financial stability. Or I don't believe they would have been able to build a building. But then don't they have to guarantee any revenue or anything to be there?
Yeah, they signed the lease for 15 years.
They're paying us rent,
And so you
So how much are
must,
they're paying in rent per month?
about 18,000.
$18,000 a month.
okay, and they paid so much in advance or whatever?
They paid $500,000 up front.
Okay, and then when you have the revenue stream that they've already done 70, however many million or billion of dollars, don't you know how many airplanes travel from another airport and how much revenue that produces?
As we said, they're growing their operations through MidAmerica.
It's a new market for
So
them.
they have new markets they're opening up. They have new growers that are going online. Thursday, they'll be explaining much more of this, but this is an effort by North Bay Produce to expand their horizons also, to increase their revenues. And as their revenues increase, then our revenues increase also.
Well,
As far as
you all
planes,
feel comfortable because you have the information. We're sitting out here and you're telling us this, and I.
Ma'am,
see
you can come by the airport. You can come by the airport.
If I was renting something to a tenant, which I've done before. So those are the things I'm looking for. I'm looking for some numbers after all these years that say, here's where we are if we do this. And he did say we need so many, 2 planes, 2 747s in and out a day or that type of thing. But they provide that. somewhere.
I have it. You can come by the airport. I'll be glad.
They do that somewhere. In another
They is me,
location.
ma'am. Come by the airport. Please come by the airport. I have a master plan that I introduced earlier today that I said I was not going to go through all of the numbers that back up this presentation. I think I did say that. But I'll be glad to entertain you at the airport and show you the master plan, show you 6 probability action lines that we have scrutinized for a year and a half to show that if we went on this track, we had this revenue. We went on this track, we had this, everything you're talking about.
Okay.
But I introduced the briefing tonight by saying I wasn't going to go through the tooth pulling on explaining those numbers, but I'll be happy to go through it with you personally.
And that's why we appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Appreciate everyone being
Yeah,
here.
so please come on by, and I'll gladly show you that.
We're going to move on. Mr. Blair, I think you had a question?
Well, I'd like to piggyback off Ms. Brace. You know, the economic impact to property taxes, schools, retail, there's great value in that. But I think the reason people are here tonight is looking for numbers, not to push you, Mr. Cantwell, but you've got the numbers at the airport. Do you want to have a meeting with everybody here to share?
Well, I have a public building commission meeting that Mr. Lee always shows up to as a public servant. And I also have had 3 public meetings for the master plan that explain this entirely. I don't know how many times I need to do that. And by the way, the reporters were there too. So I don't know if they know how to report it or not. So that's why I'm saying I gladly have it. I'll gladly share it. I can't go see every 250,000 citizens of St. Clair County. I would love to, and I think in the last few years, most of you had seen me in all your local forums. Craig Hubbard, I've been to your Chamber of Commerce meeting so many times,
Rotary.
and have afforded your opportunity to me to ask me any question anytime. So we're in earnest trying to get out there. I'm sorry you haven't heard that call, but we've had a tremendous amount of public meetings.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to attend the public building commission meetings. They're during the day, during the week. Not a lot of us are able to do it. I thought tonight was going to be more informational with regards to numbers, because with North Bay, as big as they are, as successful as they are, I would imagine they had a business plan coming in as to why they chose MidAmerica as to some projections. And I imagine as lessors of that property, you guys had an idea of revenue we generate from not just the lease, but from planes landing. So can you give us an idea, worst case scenario, those 6 you mentioned, what we project in revenue to offset the airport and what we're losing?
I'm just going to show you the master plan. You can't put the burden of an airport on one customer. There's all kinds of things that go into that. I'm not trying to tell you it's rocket science, but there are some, and have been made public, and there's a website out there with the master plan on it, made public for everybody, and has been published for a long time. So I'm sorry we didn't get the message to you.
Well, but Tim, you talked about projections of the amount of produce.
It's 2 747 equivalents a day is made.
but
Well, that's great.
But North
What are
Bay
they
talk-
planning on doing or hoping to do?
What are they planning on doing?
Yes.
Uh,
What's the revenue offset to us? Because none of us expect North Bay to save MidAmerica. What
okay.
I'm asking is, what is their economic impact to
They
the
could
airport
push
to
through,
offset?
as I said in the briefing, they could push through 2.5 million kilos of fruit and vegetables in and out. That depends on what the airframe is. And 2.5 million kilos is not quite 2 747 equivalents
Okay.
for the 6-month period. What's going to happen next? I don't know. That's a
This will
business.
go a long way towards putting airplanes and making that bottom line better.
Understand.
And that's the bottom line is we're not here today. How many times have we all talked about plans? And every community does a plan, and it can either sit on a shelf or it can be used. What we have is evidence that's going to be, ribbon's going to be cut in front of on Thursday that MidAmerica is moving in the direction of international trade. You have people who spent their own money, their own revenues to come here, and they're going to make money through MidAmerica and its runway.
Mr.
Yes, sir.
Nations?
Mr. Nations.
Mr. Nations?
Yeah, my name is Jim Nations, and I am on the Public Building Commission. One of the elements that I think some of your questions approach, which causes a small difficulty, is this is a private business, and we have a confidentiality agreement in place with them that we're not allowed to disclose their plans and intentions because it might aid or abet a competitor. So we have to be careful of what we respond to you about as to what their actual plans are. Much of what their activity is going to be determined by is how does the marketplace respond to their new offering? They're betting a great deal of money, their own money, in investing in this building and hiring and training people, that it's going to be successful. Personally, I think it's going to be wildly successful. But it's not right for us to open somebody else's private business books and tell everybody, newspaper and all, what their specific plans are.
Mr. Sharkey?
Yeah, recently, I met with Tim and Terry, and I learned an interesting fact myself. If you could maybe, talk a little bit about that tonight. I had questions about joint use, I had questions about BRAC commissions, upcoming BRAC commissions, and I think the number that you told me is the civilian workforce and the military workforce that's there at Scott Air Force Base went from 11,000 personnel to 14,500 personnel over the years, as other locations around the country were closing and shuttering their facilities, and those operations were moving here.
That was post 2005, right? That's correct.
I'm sorry, 2005?
Post 2005.
There have been some force reductions, so I think it's somewhere south of 14,000. Recently, but the number is still above 13,000. And I know, I think we have a representative from Leadership Council here, but they recently did Scott Chainwell, I think.
And also there.
Scott, what's the economic impact of Scott Air Force Base?
$3.2 billion.
$3.2 billion.
Every year.
So if you're looking at the impact on property taxes and on revenues for the county, a loss of $3.2 billion of economic impact would be a great blow to reach.
Next, any questions or comments? Yes, sir.
I'm Tom Grant. I live in Edwardsville, Madison County. I've been in the logistics world for 25 years, and I want to congratulate you all for what you've accomplished since 2004. For those of you that have not been in logistics, this has been a momentous task, and you're to be congratulated. You probably aren't aware that there's not a direct route between China and Central and South America. North Bay is betting that this is going to be the connection, that they can connect their goods to the Asian market and reduce not hours but days of those perishables running through the supply chain. And so I congratulate you, because I've watched it from the very beginning. I've seen where you've come, and you got a lot of competition out there, and the fact that you have businesses coming here, look right across the river. St. Louis Lambert is looking to do the same thing. They don't have the traction that you have. There's airports across the country that are vying for this business. You have proven that you have a business model that can work. And so I congratulate you.
Any other questions or comments before we wrap it up tonight? Well, thank you for all for attending, and I think everybody's welcome Thursday at 3 o'clock at North Bay, next to Bowen. Feel free to come on out, check out the building. Thank you.